So one of the things that happens in marriages a lot is that we as Muslims, we are taught and socialized from the very young age that the sisters must mix with the sisters, the brothers must mix with the brothers. And so quite often, a lot of times the Muslim brothers, they don't really know how to navigate and deal with Muslim sisters. They're experts at dealing with each other and Muslim brothers, and because they're mixing with them all the time, praying with them, socializing with them. And the same thing with the sisters. They're mixing with their fellow sisters, but they don't really mix with the opposite sex. And so now when you have a marriage with two different genders coming together, for the Muslim sister and brother, sometimes they don't quite know how to deal with each other. Yeah, they know how to deal with mom and their moms and so on, but this is now someone who is a spouse. And so it is a little different from being your sister or being your mom. And so they have lots of issues which they sometimes find. So one of the things which trips up a lot of the young marriages is this lack of understanding that there is in America. The way we are socialized is that men and women are socialized a little bit differently, and they behave and see the world and approach the world in very different ways. And so as a husband, you have now got to be able to get the education of how sisters look at the world. And as a sister, you have to understand the education of how brothers look at the world. And they are not the same. And so there was a very famous book written by Dr. John Gray called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, in which he's literally saying that really men and women come from almost two different planets in the way we process and deal with the world. And so everyone has heard about this book. Nobody has read it. I think you have it online now for free. But in that book, he interviewed thousands of people, men and women and couples, and he found out that there's some basic things which are really important. If you don't get them, then they could trip up and cause anxiety and stress in your marriage in ways that you may not even understand why. And so one of the things that is different between men and women is the way they deal with gifts. When it comes to gifts, for a man, if you give us a big gift, you have earned 500 points for 6 months. You know, we value the gift. And so the gift for us is very, very big. So the bigger you give us the gift, the more special it will be to us. Whereas for the sisters, it is the opposite. If you give a sister a big gift or a small gift, it's counted as 1 point. They don't see that big gift as 500 points and the small one as 2 points. They look at every single gift as 1 point. If you do something nice for a sister that is small, it's 1 point. If you do something big for a sister, it's 1 point. So every goodness towards them, they just value it as 1 point each. And so as a husband, you have to know that. And so when you're giving gifts to your wife, you want to be able to do smaller gifts more frequently. So if I have 12 roses, don't give all 12 at the same time. You're only going to get 1 point in credit. You want to be able to give 1 rose today, 1 rose tomorrow, 1 rose next week, 1 rose. So in this way, you end up getting 12 points. So that's one very important thing to understand. Number 2 is that the way men and women solve problems, they're different. When a man has a problem, usually, and these are general, there may be exceptions for individual persons. But on a general level, when a man has a problem, we like to go in a corner, we sit down, we think of it, we come back in the room and says, I got it. I think I figured out a way to do it. So we like to have a quiet time away from everybody to think of the problem, and then we come back in the room and say, hey, I got it. When a sister have a problem, she likes to call up her friends, discuss it. It's a social event for her. Hey guys, we have a problem I'm facing here. Well, you guys, what ideas you got? And so for her, it is something that they discuss collectively. And so in the marriage, the sister comes to the brother and says, I got a problem. And she's expecting him to discuss it with her because that's how she solves problems. And he is trying to give her space and ignoring her, allowing her to have her quiet time because, oh, you have a problem? Okay, I need to give you space to think about it. And she is looking at him and said, what's wrong with this guy? I told him I have a problem and he's ignoring me. He's thinking he's doing the right thing because that's how he solves his problem. and she's getting upset because he's not discussing it. And that leads to conflict where none of them understand why they're, what's the problem. And then when he comes to her and says, I have a problem, she is backing away, she's looking to talk, in fact, to him, sorry. And then he starts to, hey, leave me alone, leave me alone. And she said, well, you say you have a problem, let's talk about it. And he says, no, you're nagging and this and that, let me alone, I'm going to go and solve it myself. And they get frustrated with each other. They also discovered that when women and men discuss an issue, usually sisters, the research have shown they speak between 4,000 to 6,000 words a day. The brothers only speak about 2,000. And so sisters are always talking nonstop. This is their strength, that you can rarely win an argument with a sister. Many good souls have tried and have not been able to be successful. The sisters are masters in the art of speaking. But what is interesting is that when they are discussing anything, the brothers, usually we would have a system of, we would think out something, think out the problem, and then we open our mouth. So we think out what we want to say, and then we speak. The sisters have a different system. They begin speaking right away, but they haven't fully thought out where this is going to end. They're thinking as they're speaking. And eventually they will end up thinking it out. But whilst they're speaking, they're thinking it out. And sometimes that frustrates the brothers. Get to the point, get to the point, get to the bottom line, or you're going on and on and on. You have to give this time. This is a way in which, and you have to recognize these differences in your spouses. The other very issue that sometimes becomes a problem is when you go to set up your own home. And so part of that is that husband and wife get married, they go, wife says, I need to set up the home. They go shopping, they buy bright carpet, red wall, do painting, all kinds of stuff. The husband, being a nice guy, he says, buy whatever you need, whatever makes you happy. And so he's excited to make sure his wife is happy, and she's on cloud nine. And she buys everything, set up the home and everything. And then what he quickly finds out is that he thought setting up a home was a project, and that the project is over once you buy everything. For a sister, setting up a home is a process, a lifelong process that never ends. And so for her, every time she goes to somebody's house, she's looking for ideas of what to bring back to her home. For her, the prospect of setting up my home doesn't end with one shopping spree. And sometimes the brother, but you said you wanted these. Yeah, that was yesterday. That was last week. That was last month. And so for the sister, because a sister, from the moment she reaches 8 to 9 years of age, she have visualized her wedding day, and she have visualized her home. And so she has this picture in her head that is dear and near to her. That's why wedding days are so special for sisters. We spend thousands of dollars just to even get the dress. And the brothers, you rent a tux for 2 days, and then you have to take it back on the third day. For the brothers, it's not the same. And so what I tell the brothers when it comes to setting up the home, get a good TV for yourself, get a good chair, and get a nice cup, and leave everything else for the sisters to set up their homes. You will have less stress and less frustration. Let them do their thing. You just secure for yourself a nice chair, nice TV, and a nice cup, and you're fine. Now, another thing that trips up people is when they go on trips. Trips are supposed to be fun, enjoyable thing, but you might notice sometimes when you and your spouse are going on a trip, it's so much fighting, and there's so much quarreling, and there's so much stress that you wonder why you're even going on the trip. And part of the problem is that when men think of a trip, what comes to our mind immediately is how to get there as fast as possible, as cheap as possible, with minimal stops. We're zoned in. I'm going to get there with this, minimal gas, minimal stops, on time. That's what we're focused on. For the sisters, completely different. They are focused on how we're going to enjoy this trip. What kind of music we're going to play in the car, what kind of snacks we're going to have, how many places we're going to stop and visit. They are focused on how do I enjoy getting from point A to point B. The men are focused on just getting to point B as fast as possible. And they begin to get on each other's nerves because they have different objective of that trip. So when you understand these differences, it helps you to navigate. Oh, okay, I understand. I let her do her thing. I know this is important to her as well. The one they have also found that is really important is that the thing that is near and dear to the sisters is to know that they are being loved, they are being respected, they are being appreciated, they are being noticed. This is something that is very important to them. They need reassurance that they matter, that you love them. That is why a lot of the romantic stuff, it's women who generate and push this, because they need their husband to constantly reaffirm to them, I love you. You look beautiful. Wow, thank you for what you did today. Oh, you're so special to me. Oh, I don't know what I would do without such a person in you in my life. This is something that the sisters need badly as a way of validating for themselves that they are good wives, and that they are, providing the kind of contribution in the home that is special. And so the brothers need to understand it. And you need to tell your wife, I love you, not one time a day, not two times. You've got to err on the side of constantly finding ways to express appreciation and love. I know some brothers, they say, look, I work from 9 to 5 for 40 hours a week and bring home all this money and everything. You don't think I love you? Isn't this my love? No. You've got to say it. You've got to show it in a personalized way. Because this is what the sisters will demonstrate to the sister that their husband loved them. And for the men, we don't really are invested in this love thing as much. What drives a man and makes him feel truly awesome is when you tell him you have solved the problem. You have fixed this. You are not lost on the road when we thought you were driving for 2 hours and looked like you didn't know what you're doing. When you tell a man he can't fix something, it's like you have touched a nerve in him, and he will say, I will show you. Because for us, what we need is respect for our ability to solve, to provide, to protect. And so the sisters have to be able to understand that men, for them, this is something deeply ingrained in them. So when the sink break and your husband can't fix it, you don't just immediately say, I'm going to call a plumber. You turn to him and you say, honey, I know you got this. I know you could fix this sink. But how about, I know you're busy. Let me call the plumber for this one. So you try to give him his kudos as a fixer, but you know he can't fix it. And then you call the plumber so you don't feel that bad. And so these differences, there are about 13 differences in that book that I think is important for couples who are having these kind of problems in understanding how to navigate each other, that you should read the book. And because your marriage, the more educated you are about it, the more wonderful your marriage will be. When you don't provide yourself with the education, then you trip up yourself and you get lots of problems. And because we don't grow up mixing with men and women in this kind of a way, sometimes we don't understand each other.